Hello, hello, and welcome to the only podcast where, much like the prequel trilogy, we have one host who is considered horrible, one who is considered slightly better because they look cool, and one that people love. Once again, I'll let you decide who's who. I'm Matt.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Max.
This is Force for Thought.
I hate that you do this to me because now every time I'm trying to put together what the movies are. I think I got it though.
I said, every single time I say I have an intro joke, there's a theme.
So I'm guessing there's going to be a sequel version that comes up too.
Can't wait for
Really
next week.
interested to hear how that one
Yeah,
goes.
there's a couple. There's a couple.
Which one of us is sloppy and disorganized in our life?
I think it depends on what aspect of our life you're talking about.
I was talking to a friend about comics because I wanted some recommendations for more modern comics, just like regular Marvel stuff outside of Star Wars. Because I feel like the ones that I haven't been reading lately aren't particularly great. And so he was like, "Oh, you got to read these runs." And I was reading them, and they were fantastic. And I was like, "Man, that's crazy. Why are comics today so hit or miss?" But then I was like, "That's really not a today issue. That's just how comics have always been." And then I kind of started thinking about it, and I feel like that's just how it is for entertainment in general, because I feel like even me on this podcast, I say that all the time about movies today, but movies today or TV shows today are no better or worse than they used to be back in the day or anything like that. I think the difference is that the bad stuff has just become popular. Whereas before, it used to be that the stuff that was popular because it was good. Now the stuff that's popular is just popular because it has big names attached to it, or
Chris Pratt,
a franchise attached to it, or something like that.
It's about Minecraft, yeah.
Because I started thinking, and I was like, I honestly can't tell you the last movie that I watched that had no name actors, no franchise associated with it, that I was just like, man, that was really bad. Matthew, I'm curious if you have an example, because I feel like you probably do. Because you're worried.
I do.
You do? What's
Civil
yours?
War. It was awful.
Oh, that's right.
Civil War.
You've told
I talked
me
about it on the
this. You said
podcast
that you've
before.
hated it before.
It was not a war movie. It was a photography movie, and
we're not talking about the Marvel Civil War. We're not talking about Captain America.
That's true. The Alex Garland movie. See, I did like it because I thought that was a fun take. And plus, honestly, I think that's the only way you're going to be able to get through with that movie. And with that being said, you have to know, I think, when you're going into an A24 movie, it's going to be some bullshit, basically. That it's not going to, whatever you think it's going to be is not going to be. And that's, with that being said, I do hate A24 movies. I think people are finally starting to get on that train too, where they're like, oh yeah, A24 movies just kind of suck. I actually do like Civil War. I don't love it, but I like it. But it's I mean, I wouldn't watch it again.
A24 is a good litmus test of the whole hipster movement, where
yes.
The same with the restaurants that people are now coming around on, also with the steel stools and the guy with a hairnet and a mustache and black gloves making your $30 burger that tastes a little bit better than McDonald's. And it's unique is not exclusively good. It can be unique and bad. That doesn't just make it good if you're different,
That's true. So Max, the original question though is, have I seen a movie that lately that is bad, that is original?
Yeah. What's the latest bad original movie that you've seen?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going through. I'm looking through the movies right now that on my list that I've recently watched. A great movie I thought that was totally original was the movie called Cuckoo from Neon. That was really fun. I would say Complete Unknown, but that is just a Bob Dylan story, so that's kind of a cop out. The movie called Odessa with Sadie Sink isn't great, but I give it a lot of credit for what it's trying to do. So it's I do agree.
I have no idea what Odessa is. I've never even heard of that one.
It's a straight to Hulu movie. It's but again, I think that's the thing too. Yeah, it's fun. It's a musical. But it's also, I think it needs $10 more million for what they're trying to do. Honestly, the way I would describe it is a little bit of reel to reel esque. But it's world building wise. That's kind of where it ends. But yeah, I feel like what you're saying too, Max, is I feel like there's a big distinction in again, I don't want to monologue or we can go on a tangent, but I feel like there's a big distinction of
Matt, if you can't monologue and go on a tangent here, then where can you? Pop off, King.
I was just gonna say the I think it's context. I feel like all movies were yes, you go to theaters to see movies, right? and then like there's been like divide now. I feel like there's like a level of like quality where you're like, if you're gonna watch a straight to Hulu movie or a straight to Netflix movie, there might be a slightly different quality depending. Like a Godessa, right? It's a random movie. I forget who directed it. I think like an indie director directed it versus like the Russo brothers Electric State on Netflix, right? It's like they're trying to do different things. One feels more of like a direct to video in the modern day, but then Electric State feels like a blockbuster on a streaming platform. So I feel like there's like this weird level and tier thing that no one's been able to figure out mentally as well.
I think that's a good way to describe Electric State, because I did watch Electric State, and a couple episodes ago I said that I was probably going to end up watching it, and I stand by every single thing I said about that movie before I had ever seen it. I think it was fun because it was Chris Pratt. I knew it wasn't going to be bad, but it was like not terrible, but not great. I really liked a lot of the ideas that they had, but I feel like some of it was just like kind of like pretty haphazard or not as thought out as maybe it could have been. I don't know. I like the idea more than the actual execution.
I don't want to cut you off too quick, but if you're listening to this episode and you're like, that intro joke sounded very familiar from last week, and then Max had the same thoughts about Electric State they had last week as well, this is a different episode. I do want to point that out.
We'll soon discuss different ideas.
Last week that we talked about Electric State? Surely that was longer.
Yes.
No, it was not last week.
2 weeks ago, you talked about how you wanted to watch it. Last week, you watched it and talked about it.
Interesting. Well,
I'm sure the viewers appreciate the follow-up.
With that being said, we did record 2 episodes last week, spoiler for the listener, so I don't know when that episode is out yet, technically.
God, I hope we didn't talk about Electric State much in our review of Revenge of the Sith.
I hope so, too.
Well, we're still waiting
Look for that in a
our
couple
next
weeks.
Review of Rebel Moon Part 2. Whatever that's called.
Yep.
What's the name of Rebel Moon Part 2? It's something...
I don't even know. Usually I'm pretty good with that stuff.
The Blood Daughter or something? I don't know.
Yeah, that honestly might as well be it.
All right, but anyways, speaking of bad television, we thought that it would be fun to pitch our own series.
Speak for yourself.
To pitch our own Tales of series, because well, now I'm rattled. I don't know if it was last week or not. We talked about Tales of the Underworld, the upcoming TV show coming out, and we wanted to pitch some more ideas for potential Tales of stories that they could do in the future. So we kind of put together a couple different ideas. We haven't told each other what they are, other than a couple of our organizations / eras, whatever you want to call it, that I'm really excited to go through, because I had a lot of half ideas for different eras or organizations, so I'm excited to see what characters you guys are bringing to the table and what the theme is, what the organization is, or whatever. So, Matt, I'll let you go first.
I was gonna say, can I go not first? I'm still
Luke,
I'm just still organizing things. Thank you, my friend. I'm so sorry.
All right, I can go first. The problem is, I feel like it's a little arrogant of me if I'm like trying to.
Oh, because it's the best.
I'm trying to be a good host here, so I'm trying to let someone else go first.
Thank you. I can go first. I am pitching Tales of the Separatists, and I'm kind of in a bind because I really tried to find characters that I want to learn more about, but they have to be at that level of popularity and importance to the Star Wars universe that, like, I wanted to do, Tales of the Resistance about Rey and Finn, because they're some of my favorite characters, but that's high-level characters. This is more for B and C tier characters, or at least just smaller characters. So then I wanted to do, like, so I want to do Tales of the Separatist for General Grievous. I would love to see some backstory out of him. This feels like an appropriate place to explore that. Being trained in the Jedi arts by Count Dooku when you're not a Force user, whatever happens to his organic self, and then becoming the cyborg, all of that sounds amazing. And you can backdrop that with a bunch of different Separatist things. It can go into different time periods. There could be time jumps like the Tales of series loves doing. And then for my second arc, I would love to do... and this is where I was kind of in a bind because it's a bit of a stretch, but I would want to do a Darth Plagueis / Darth Sidious kind of origins of the Separatist. It would have to be like because I feel like I could do Grievous in a Tales of the Sith series less than I could do Plagueis in a Tales of the Separatist, because it does all start with him to an extent. We could see the mechanisms he puts in place, the training he does with Palpatine, the seeds he plants to begin the Separatist movement, and follow through on the same themes that Grievous goes through. And I think it could be some nice backdrops, like Plagueis training Sidious at the same time as Dooku is training Grievous, and they could have some overlap in the themes and trainings that they perform. This is very unexplored. I mean, the only Plagueis stuff we have in canon is from the Acolyte, which is, I guess, technically worth mentioning, but essentially it's nothing. We assume that he died shortly before the Clone Wars and Palpatine killed him, but we don't really know where. I see more often than not that he was killed before the Phantom Menace, but we have no idea, just because Maul, I guess, and the Rule of Two, but we know that the lore is kind of fast and loose with the Rule of Two, with like who's an assassin and who's just a droid general, and it's like, it doesn't really matter. But I would love to see some of that.
He said, hey, Dooku, you got to get rid of Asajj Ventress because she's becoming more of an apprentice than she is just a hired gun. So he's like, oh, okay. And then he goes off and immediately hires Savage Opress. And it's like, yeah, you really, like you said, he's playing fast and loose with the rules here.
The rules really be more like guidelines than actual rules. But we know Darth Plagueis is immune, and we know that the immunes in his Darth Plagueis book, which is Legends now, he was a high-ranking member of the banking clan, and he had a lot of influence there. You could bring in elements of that, see stuff with that other immune guy that says, the banking clan will sign your treaty.
That's pretty good. That's actually a pretty good tie-in to that, because, yeah, they're a pretty big involvement in the Separatist side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just sort of top-down with Plagueis and sort of bottom up with Grievous, and like Plagueis is creating everything and Grievous is at his lowest point. He got, I mean, we really don't know, but I assume his organic self was destroyed to a large degree, and then he had to get cybernetic implants, and I would love to see all of that, but mostly the training aspect. I think like the middle 2 episodes for each of those arcs could be the training of Sidious and Grievous, and that would flow really nicely together.
They would mirror each other. Who would be the first arc?
Well, it's not really first or second, is it? Because it goes back and forth. Because I know Tales of the Jedi starts with the Ahsoka arc and ends with the Dooku arc.
It does, yeah. So you can do it either way.
Anyway. It goes like 1, 2, and then 1 and 3, and then 2 and 3.
So that's how you would do it? You kind of do it like interspliced with each other?
I would rather, yeah. Because, well,
I think that's smart too.
I remember when I was watching Tales of the Empire, I was disappointed to be interrupted during my Barriss arc with more Morgan Elsbeth arc. And if one of my arcs is weaker than the other, it would be a shame to have that effect again. But it's my show. I'll just make them both great, you know?
It wasn't interrupted, though. Season 2, or Tales of the Empire, did all of Morgan Elsbeth and then all of Barriss Offee.
Did it? I was wondering. Okay. I think I would rather do that. All of one and then the other. Oh, but then you lose something with the episode 2s mirroring each other. So I would want to stagger them.
Based on what you described, I would do it more like Tales of the Jedi. I think that would be a better idea to intersplice them. I like that idea. It's kind of contrasting more directly those story arcs with each other in real time. Not real time, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other character I would like to see more in Tales of the Separatists other than Grievous, Plagueis, and Palpatine. I mean, that was really knocked it out of the park with the character choices.
Right. If you're going Tales of the Separatists, I think it's definitely those two. Because I really wanted to do Grievous, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe Poggle the Lesser? No, that wouldn't be interesting. Yeah. Wat Tambor? No, I don't care about him very much.
The only other person that I could possibly see, because I know it's Dave Filoni's pet project, is if he tries to do something with Lux or Mina Bonteri, who are 2 very minor characters from the Clone Wars, that I could definitely see him being like, hey, we didn't finish their storylines, we got to do something more with them. And it's like, no, you don't really need to with those. Like, they're small enough.
I know. I would like that too, but then that would be
him,
so
though.
different from like it would just be a political story instead of more of a Sith. Which, again, I'm not doing Tales of the Sith, but I kind of want to, so this is my way to do it anyway. I would be way less interested in the Bon Terries.
Because I had an idea for Tales of the Sith, but it wasn't fully fleshed out, but I don't know. I'm going to go straight into mine real quick.
It's too obvious, though. That was great, Luke.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I want to build off that, too, because I have a lot of kind of similar thoughts with mine, because in our group text, I dibs Tales of the Rebellion. I jumped right on it, because I feel like it was the lowest hanging fruit, like... I feel like that's
next to Tales of the Sith.
Yeah, like I feel like it's almost certainly, gonna happen at some point if they keep going down this road or whatever. But I wanted to pick my characters and explain why and a little bit of what they would be about, because the first one I would pick would be Luthen. Luthen Rail, for obvious reasons. Obviously, everyone loves Luthen. You want to see more of him. Luke, kind of like what you just said, like it would become more of like a political drama than like, a cartoon animated action show or whatever. And that's fair, but I guess mine would pretty much lean into that for the first arc because
that's fine. The reason I was against it is because I wanted my Tales of series to be that action adventure, more Sith lightsabers kind of stuff, and not political. It's not that I don't like the political side of Star Wars and animation. It's just that I didn't want that for this series.
Well, and I think in my head, it'll like balance itself out with the second arc. But with the first one, Luthen, obviously, I want to know more about him. I want to know his backstory, because he's everyone's favorite character in Andor. Obviously, we've talked about that ad nauseum. But the problem that I have with Luthen's character as a character choice is trying to find a way to differentiate it from the hundreds of other stories that we've already seen and are seeing in Andor, because Andor is all about how do you join a rebellion, like what radicalizes you and like all the different paths to get there and stuff. So this would just be like, I guess, another glimpse of that. And I'm like, well, that's kind of unoriginal. Like, I don't know how they would kind of differentiate it, but I hope that they would, other than just a different character, because I do want to see Luthen. And even if there isn't anything else, that different or anything, I guess I would still be happy just to get more Luthen content. But then the second arc, and I would do this more like Tales of the Empire, where I would do all of Luthen's arc, and then my second choice is Captain Rex. Because we don't see a whole lot of Captain Rex during the rebellion. Obviously, we see some stuff kind of early on in Rebels, what he's doing. But the second arc would be all about him, and it would be much more action heavy. And the kind of pattern that I'm following, because I pointed it out in our last episode about the pattern that I think these Tales of shows take, which is that the first arc is usually like, how does somebody get into this world, get into this group organization, or like change their mindset? And then the second one is, how do they get out of it? And I kind of wanted to follow that same pattern with the rebellion. And that's why I wanted to follow Luthen, because we know there's a backstory there. We just don't know what it is. And we can see how he kind of came into the rebellion, not just as an established rebellion too, but like as a founder. And obviously he had to have made contact with Mon Mothma at some point to kind of start the thing. But then I thought Captain Rex would be a good way to kind of cap it off, because then the story turns to, and how does somebody leave the rebellion? How does somebody walk away from that life? And I think that would be such an interesting look at Captain Rex for that reason, because he is literally bred for war. I mean, he has no purpose outside of combat. He was made for it. He fought in the Clone Wars. He immediately kind of went into the rebellion, kind of lived underground for a little bit, but I mean, he was still there and present and fighting and helping out Ahsoka and all that stuff. And I would like to see a little bit more of what he's doing. I don't know if it's like officially canon that he was on the Battle of Endor, but people always point out the one trooper at Endor who looks exactly like Captain Rex, and they're like, oh, that's him. And I think that was kind of retconned to some extent, and I don't know if George Lucas or someone said like, yeah, that's him, why not? But I would make that officially. Yeah, I would make that officially canon. I would say Rex was at the Battle of Endor, and that's kind of how the second arc would start, with his story kind of starting with the end of the rebellion and having that happen on Endor. We see a little bit of the aftermath after that, and then it kind of moves into a little more, not necessarily drama, but a little more dramatic arc of him kind of walking away from that, figuring out what his life is outside of war, outside of the rebellion and combat. And in my head, I don't think there is one. I think that this is someone whose identity is kind of baked into this idea of a soldier. And I think he struggles with civilian life. I don't think he's really cut out for it. And then it kind of culminates with the Battle of Jakku, and he's kind of called back into combat, and he's eager to do it because this is what he's meant to do. And the story ends with him ultimately sacrificing himself at Jakku. And I think it would...
I was going to say, he becomes a kamikaze pilot.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I think it would be a good ending to Captain Rex's story arc. It would be kind of a good way to put him to rest, but also still be kind of like a sobering lesson about living by the sword, dying by the sword. Captain Rex is somebody who never walked away from a battle, and that's only it's gonna catch up to you at some point. You're not gonna walk off into the sunset and live a happy life, I think, if that's the kind of life that you're leading. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Again, I mean, he was a clone. He was literally like made for this. And so to me, that's just like the only kind of obvious solution. And so you get like a little bit of the politics of like the post-Endor era, and then it kind of fills the gap a little bit to Jakku, and you see a little bit more of that.
I love the idea of both of those characters being in the same boat, because they are in the same boat, like, and they're different in different ways, right? I mean, Luthen literally forced himself. I mean, you just kind of said this, but Luthen forced himself to be in the rebellion so far that he has no life outside of it, and then literally Rex is literally built for it. It doesn't have really a choice as well. So I like that kind of those like thematically mirroring each other. That's really
we
fun.
mentioned it in our one of our more recent Andor episodes. Are you picking selection here on whether Luthen was an antiquities dealer that then became a rebel, or he was a rebel who created an antiquities dealer front? Because that ever since we mentioned that a few weeks ago, I've just been going back and forth. Like I don't know, neither makes that much sense, but each is equally intriguing.
I guess for purposes of this story, he would have been an antiquities dealer first, and maybe he was a family man, maybe he had a wife and kids, and then something happened, there was a not so accident and he hates the Empire now, something obviously that radicalized him. But I feel like even that is like I mean, I can't think of a specific example, but something that we've already seen before. So I don't know, other than just being Luthen,
Harriman.
I'm struggling. Yeah, there you go. So I'm kind of struggling to think of a good way to kind of make it its own thing and unique from these other stories that are already being told within Andor, I guess, too.
Also, this is just not to go too far, because I've also been thinking about that, because I love that aspect of like, it's like Dexter. Like, is he a good guy doing bad things, or is he a bad guy doing good things? And I think Luthen, in my mind, is very much like Mon Mothma in the fact that he is using his power as an antiquities dealer who is used to trading with high profile people and has a lot of wealth. I think he's using that for good. And I could be wrong, but I would love to see a story of Luthen almost like an Indiana Jones type. Like, that's in the fact that I almost feel like in the past life he was like a treasure hunter or something. And so now he is able to sell those, and I feel like become wealthy. And I mean, that's just my headcanon of like, I would like to see that backstory, but I think realistically, again, in my head, he is very much like a Mon Mothma, but he's going about it very differently, because I think those storylines kind of parallel each other as well, and I think that like thematically that works for the show. But those are my thoughts on Luthen, and I would like to, again, I kind of just want to see him as an Indiana Jones type character when he's younger.
Yeah, I would love to see this. I think you don't have to stress out too much about finding a particularly unique way to turn him to the rebellion, to creating the rebellion, because I think it'll be unique that he will, whatever event happens that he decides to fight the Empire, whenever we see that in any story, it's like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to join the rebellion and go get in an X-Wing and fight the Death Star. Like, to see, instead of that, someone plant seeds that'll take decades to grow and take down the Empire, and like do it really smart and meet Kleya. I would love to flesh out their relationship and how, because I remember being so shocked once I realized how involved with everything that Kleya was. I thought she was like part of the front and she was just the secretary at the antiquity shop, but she is in a lot of ways his equal, maybe every way. I mean, honestly, I don't know. But yeah, that's the much more captivating arc that you presented. I think, because the Captain Rex one, I can't stop thinking about the Bad Batch, because we saw most of this stuff in season 3 of the Bad Batch, and I don't think it would undo anything, but it was just so nice to see Hunter not have to keep fighting, and he did get to rest on Pabu, and he wasn't called back into action. Like he said to Omega in the epilogue, like, if you need me, I'll be there, which, don't get me wrong, I would love to see, and it very well might happen at the Battle of Jakku in the future, and we'll see old and grizzled Hunter with old and grizzled Rex. But maybe just because the Bad Batch season 3 is so fresh still that I wouldn't want to touch clone epilogue still for a while. But I do like the story that you presented.
Once again, we really need to discuss Bad Batch season 3, but because we will.
We really do.
Absolutely see them again. I mean, I thought it was a little heavy-handed when Hunter was like, "If you ever need us, we'll be there," and I'm like, "Okay, we'll see you again. We'll need you at some point." Because in my head, I thought about the Bad Batch as I was thinking about Captain Rex, and because I was like, maybe like this is kind of like the conclusion to that, right? And she calls Omega calls them up to action, and then this is how they are helping. But then I was like, that's kind of weird for a Tales of, though, because I was like, well, if I do Hunter, then I got to include Wrecker and Crosshair and all them and everything, and I was like, but I don't know, doing all of them at once, that seems like a little much. So that was why I went with Captain Rex, but I feel like it would be the exact same arc, because I don't know, like, I guess it's a flash forward at the end of Bad Batch season 3. So, like, yes, we do know that they kind of like walk away from it all and live a happy life for at least some period of time. And in the story that I'm pitching with Captain Rex, it wouldn't be as long or as successful of a civilian life. But I don't know. I picture it as being the same arc, even if the Bad Batch weren't included at all in my Tales of the Rebellion story. In my head, it's the same thing. Because they're coming back. The Bad Batch is coming back. They're going to fight one last time, and they're probably going to have to save Omega. Maybe they'll sacrifice themselves. I don't know.
Nah, they're going to have to save Grogu.
Or Grogu.
They're going to be in the Mandalorian to Grogu.
That's
I'm
what
so
I'm
kidding. I'm kidding. Don't overthink that.
Building up to their endgame is Star Wars
Live
like
action?
we need
Oh.
more characters, and they were like Skeleton Crew, like, oh, what happens to Jad Najawood? Don't say anything. We're gonna bring him in.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring him back.
I
for
feel
our
like they
endgame.
are.
What's it
I
gonna be?
feel
I
like
would
that is
be,
what's
'cause
going
I
on a
don't
little
know.
bit.
I would be shocked. I mean, Endgame was such lightning in a bottle, and it's a medium that has been building to that for like 70 years. Like, superheroes have always been just mash them all together and see how big and cool we can make it. And that's also what the MCU was since it started. To do that with Star Wars, it would be so much more difficult, and it's already extremely difficult.
I don't mean, I guess like Endgame might be not a bad example, but like not exactly like Endgame, but I do feel like, start weaving those people in and out of some storylines would be kind of cool to see. Maybe, I don't know, because again, you don't want it to be too convoluted and intertwined, I guess. Like,
And you don't want to make the
wants to
galaxy
see that a
seem
little
small.
bit. That's true too. Yes, that's a big problem. It already is confusing sometimes. We're like, well, how much information did this person know? But I feel like it'd be harder to avoid those subjects if people are just running into each other at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you guys gave me enough time to think. So here's what's going to happen. So Arc 1.
Okay, good.
Luthen, he's a family man, right? He has a wife, kids. They die from the Empire, and it's tragic, and he turns against them. And then he's talking to his brother about it, and he's like, listen, man, like, they killed them. Like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to drive my fist through the heart of the Empire. And his brother is so brainwashed by all the propaganda. He's like, dude, I got to turn you into the Empire, man. This isn't okay. So then he kills his brother, and we find out that they're identical twins, and he's the one with the shop. And so it's a real Don Draper situation where
Whoa.
Luthen's real name isn't even Luthen at all. Luthen's his brother's name, but he doesn't use his real name because then they would know that he's a radical whose family was killed by the Empire.
That'd be cool. I like
That'd be
it.
cool as hell. Oh, but real quick, does his brother have a family? Is he just like...
No.
No.
He's just kind of a nerdy
That doesn't
antiquity
make sense.
dealer. And Luthen doesn't care
He's
about
like a
antiques
eunuch?
at all. Yeah, he gives him shit for it. A eunuch.
Man, that is actually really good. Also, all you gotta do is mention some sort of Mad Men reference, and I'm in. You throw
So
a
what's
West
the
Wing
plot
in
to
there,
Mad
I'm
Men?
dead.
John Hamm has a twin brother.
No, the twin brother thing is original. But I don't want to tell you that. Mad Men is... I could go on, but there's a storyline basically that you find out that Don Draper isn't actually his real name. His real name is Dick Whitman, and in the Korean War, he takes the identity of his supervisor who dies in war, and he's mistaken for Don Draper, so he sees it as a jumping off point to start a new life, and it sort of haunts him. But that's not the main storyline, really.
Star Wars has already kind of dipped their toes in the twin reversal storyline with the Acolyte.
Yes, that was
to
the
varying
first
degrees of success.
Just the reversal aspect was.
Yeah. I mean, specifically that, the prestige kind of thing where you use the fact that they're twins to fool people.
Spoiler alert. For
I don't know. Maybe it's just
because.
Maybe it's just because I have identical twin children now that I'm real big on that idea. But twins are so fucking cool. That should be a story way more frequently. They're identical people. The opportunities are endless.
Do you get them confused ever? Like, how does that work for you, Luke?
Every day.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Fiona has a birthmark that Violet doesn't, so I'll never get them actually swapped. And if I look at him for more than a few seconds, I can tell. But yeah, I definitely refer to him as like this one and that one when I'm just glancing.
I would do the same thing. That would stress me out so bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. All right, so you've had more time. What's the details to the Rex arc now?
I feel like I had enough detail for that one already.
I know. I'm teasing. I do like the Rex arc. I like that we can. I feel like someone else would throw the criticism, not me, that you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, where he like tries to enjoy the quiet life, or maybe that the Bad Batch are enjoying the quiet life, but then they still get called in because you live by the sword, die by the sword. And I just want to touch on how happily ever after is only ever after in fairy tales. Like, shit still happens, most notably Luke Skywalker, and how dickheads on the internet threw up such a fit for his life not ending after Return of the Jedi, and he still has problems to get through in the following 30 years after that time. Like, you can have a very satisfying moment and time of your life that still does not stretch to the end of your life. Like, so long as you don't die after that happens, it's not like no point of your life is permanent until you're dead. There's always room for more stories or development.
Yeah.
It's like what I told all my coworkers when I quit to be a stay-at-home dad, that I'm retiring. I said, "Oh, well, you're not really retired because you're going to go back to work eventually." It's like, if you're not working and you're like not trying to work, you're retired, and retirement is never permanent until you're dead. So I am retired.
That's true, because people come out of retirement all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll come out of it someday. As of right now, you're retired.
That's why I always say to Luke, one last job, and you're like, "I'm retired. I can't do it." I feel like back to
this time it's personal.
Yeah, that's
all right, Matthew. I'm very excited for yours because I don't even know what your topic is.
Sorry, I've been really excited about this because I've been working on it, and since we were talking about the Tales of series, I wanted to do something a little different. I don't know if this is necessarily against the rules or not, but I wrote it anyway.
Oh god, it's going to be TAILS of something.
Yeah, that is it.
You're doing it, you madman.
No, this is so I did Tales from the Cantina. So instead of Tales of, it's Tales from. So as we know, I'm not a huge fan of the structure or anything, so I wrote I've been working on this since we came up with the story idea, and I wanted to be able to kind of build on the episodes in a different structure. So I wrote some stuff. So flipping the script on the structure, Tales from the Cantina is a 7-episode series, because the 6 episodes, that takes place over the course of one single night in a cantina full of bounty hunters and scuzzy patrons. Each episode tells a story.
Is it the cantina? Is it the cantina?
I don't know.
Is it on Tatooine?
No. I don't know. I honestly, I didn't think that far of like where it's specifically at. Maybe it is. Let's say it. Okay. Yes, say yeah. It's on Tatooine. Unless anything, I need a mental
image. So in my head, it already is. Might as well just keep it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Singing the song.
Different band. We'll do that.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So each episode tells a story of a bounty hunter, patron, or worker who passes through that cantina on a dark and stormy night, which culminates in the final episode during a massive brawl. The episodes reveal characters' backstories, dangerous jobs they're on, or a defining moment that led them to become who we know they are. Bartenders, informants, and musicians become recurring background characters, and each episode intertwines with the next and sometimes entangles itself into it. So I don't know the characters really hashed out. I don't know if anybody besides one that's like super notable. So it's a little bit again kind of a different show. But I have the 7 episodes very briefly, one sentence kind of each described out that kind of again build on each other. So imagine again each episode takes place on the same night. So just say within the one of the episodes the person's at the bar, right? I mean they can be walking through whatever, but the second episode just say the person is back in the little booth where Han and Greedo are at. So like you would see those characters in the background. So they are all going on at the same time basically as well. That all lead to episode 7 in which all the storylines converge and then resolve. So episode 1, The Crimson Debt. A former Crimson Dawn enforcer, now a washed-up bounty hunter, is cornered by his past when an old target walks into the cantina. He's got one night to set things right or disappear forever. Episode 2, The Ballad.
I'm sorry. So what's
Yes.
the era? It's like the era of the Empire, former Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, yes, like Solo-ish. I guess a little after. I didn't think that too hard of it. Any of these could be interchangeable as well.
Okay.
Episode
But
2,
the Empire is that large. Okay.
Yeah, The Ballad of Greedo. Before the infamous
Nice.
blaster shot, Greedo was just a low-ranking bounty hunter with big dreams and bad judgment. This episode rewinds the clock to his early days, chronicling his first and maybe last chance at greatness. Episode 3, The Droid and the Devil. This is also more or less not based off of, but more or less influenced on Batman the Animated Series than anything. Episode 3, The Droid and the Devil. A reprogrammed assassin droid seeks redemption, taking non-lethal bounties only. But when a rival hunter tries to sell him for parts, he must decide if there is still a code worth living by. Episode 4, A Knife That Binds. 2 rival and bickering bounty hunters tied together as prisoners must work together to get them removed and escape, surrounded by people who also want to capture them. So obviously if you escape, there's going to be a bunch of other bounty hunters around you who want to get you got. Episode 5, The Witness. A wannabe bounty hunter sees something in the cantina he wasn't supposed to see. An unmarked ship offloading prisoners meant to disappear. He has to decide whether to turn a blind eye or risk exposing it and becoming the bounty hunter he so desperately wants to be. Episode 6, The Musician's Mark. One of the house band members secretly moonlights as an informant for the bounty hunters. When he betrays the wrong client, he has to outsmart both the hunter and the Hutts, all without missing a note on stage. Episode 7, The Mask. This is really where Batman the Animated Series comes in. A mysterious masked bounty hunter, his species and identity unknown, has become a ghost story whispered amongst the cantina regulars. In the finale, a group of overconfident and cocky bounty hunters trade tales and mock the legend. But as their stories converge in an explosive shootout, they discover the truth. The masked hunter isn't just real. He's been sitting at their table telling stories with them the whole time. So that's my 7-episode series where everything kind of culminates to some shootouts and stuff. Again, I didn't really think about the characters, which probably should have, but doing a different type of show in the fact that it's not arced. Again, a big structure problem for me is the Tales of series, so I just wanted to create something that all takes place in one night where, again, these are kind of going in and out of each other, and then the last episode, they all converge. So, obviously Greedo comes out alive, but then also some of these characters might not come out alive. Some of these characters are, caught in the crossfire. There's a lot, I think, to deal with here.
That is a lot different, but I cannot explain how much I want to see that, because that sounds like that could be such a fun... That's such a good idea for like a fun mini series. Like you said, like it's like 7 episodes. I mean, they can all be relatively short because the Tales of episodes already are, even though just a little bit shorter than a normal animated show, apparently.
Correct.
But yeah, I love that. My only qualm is with the 7 episodes, because that's how many are in the Book of Boba Fett, and I give it shit for that. So I feel like I just got to remain intellectually honest and say, make it 6.
Hey,
Well,
I can
good
push
call,
up the
Matt.
8.
Add one more
Good
or take
call.
one less.
That was evidence that the Book of Boba Fett was poorly thought out, being 7 episodes. So
it's true,
surely
but this
you wouldn't
is
want to make a show 7
more
episodes.
more thought out because it's better than 6. Apparently, I don't know. So like that's the thing. So I wanted each realistically. I had like alts for one of the episodes, and so I just put it at 7. So I figured a former Crimson Dawn enforcer, now washed up bounty hunter, I feel like is like an interesting idea when somebody, one of his old targets walks in. So now he's just trying to basically hide with, in plain sight. So I think that's a good entry point. The second episode, you get a character that's Greedo. So I feel like that's kind of like a fun second episode. The third episode,
because everyone loves Greedo apparently.
I would definitely have fun with Greedo for 10 to 15 minutes.
I also don't want to spoil too much, but the person he shoots, he does take his vest, and that's how the story of the vest.
How's the backstory of the vest?
The third episode with the droid, I figured taking non-lethal bounties is like versus the other two characters is a little different. Plus, it takes place with the droid, and then the other two I didn't know what to do with because I figured I like the idea of two bounty hunters that are completely like tied together. I guess they're not bounty hunters. I should say bounties. So these are the people that the bounty hunters captured, and it's focused on them and them trying to escape. And it's like that thought where it's like if you try to escape, you're surrounded by people who want to also take you in. So you're going to get caught by somebody. And also these two people hate each other. So I was like, is that a fun story? Or The Witness, where an up and coming bounty hunter or a wannabe bounty hunter who I assume like works at the cantina witnesses something, and so it's like, do you, when push comes to shove, are you actually going to take that opportunity, or are you actually satisfied with like what you're doing in life?
That's a good way to get a whole mix in there too, because I think which one had the musician? Obviously,
the next one
are patrons, and then like if you work at the canteen as well, you have like the bartender or someone is one of the stories as
well. Yeah. And then also the musician's Mark, he's an informant, so I figured you could rewatch the show, a la Arrested Development season 4, and understand what's going on the entire time, where like the musician's actually doing stuff in the background that's actually affecting the other storylines.
Just as I got you with Mad Men, you got me with Arrested Development.
Exactly. And then the last episode, I mean, it is very much Almost Got Him, one of my favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series, but at the same time, I figured that's a great way of like all these cocky bounty hunters talking about this legend and blah blah blah, but secretly they're just kind of giving away their secrets or like their treasures or something, in which that masked bounty hunter, who is unknown and more of a legend, then will just take and reap all the bounty as well. So then I figured that'd be a fun, and that's a perfect, I think, way that once they realize it, or once that masked legend bounty hunter kind of give himself up, causes a shootout and a brawl, which then all the other people are affected by as well, and that kind of that's the tipping point, right, where everything kind of explodes and all the other shootouts happen and stuff too.
So, believe it or not, we got a decent amount of story about Max Rebo in the comics. However, for the musician's Mark one, you could make that one Figrin Dan. That way you get a little more name recognition in there. I feel like just as many people are going to be loving Figrin as much as they love Greedo.
Yeah,
they will not
as much.
First of all,
I think they will. I think this podcast is unreasonably skewed pro Greedo.
You think that Figrin Dan has as much fandom as Greedo?
Yes.
That's insane. That's insane to me.
I mean, what do you mean by fandom? I mean, I think there's more Figrin Dan in the Modal Nodes t-shirts than there are Greedo t-shirts.
There's definitely more. There's more Jizz shirts, I'd say, than Greedo shirts for sure.
That was retcon.
It's
Jats
funny.
Now. Don't get me started.
I mean, Greedo is a named character in the movie. Like, he can't compete with that in terms of general popularity.
Also for Greedo's a cooler action figure. No one wants to play with the musicians besides Max.
No.
Rebo, but you're not but also that's why I figured it could be a different band as well, because I feel like that house band would be weird and confusing. Talk about like
Matt, that would be the biggest wasted opportunity I could ever imagine. You do not introduce another band in another cantina just to zero in on a different character. It's got to be the same band, and that would it's like the same sensation I get when I read the comic books, when the Star Wars comics, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really interesting that happens next, and then at the same time I'm thinking like, of course that happens next. It seems so logical. Like, of course the musicians are informants to someone. They are experiencing so much every day. No one looks at them twice. They can hear everything. They just play the one fucking song so they can do it when they're asleep. That is an unbelievable amount of information to tap into if you're a criminal or the Empire or whomever wants information. That makes so much sense. That was my favorite part of your whole pitch, besides the Greedo thing.
Thank you.
And I also like the structure. I mean, obviously, being different from the Tales of series, I don't dislike the Tales of series like you guys do, but I can't deny that would be a great show. and that's a really fascinating storytelling method. I know that you just sort of said this in passing, but I'm getting unreasonably hooked up on Tales from the Cantina and not Tales of the Cantina. Like, both works. It just feels like a backhand to the Tales of series. Like,
maybe this is
of and from are such similar words that if you're changing it, I feel like it's just to give the middle finger to the previous Tales of series.
It could be of. I just feel like from makes more sense as well. But I also feel like this could be a different thing where, like, then you do a second season where it's like Tales from the Streets, which sounds maybe too like hood or something. But I feel like then everything takes place on, like,
it's all
the
about the
Coruscant
mods doing crack
stuff.
on Tatooine.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, I've been spiraling where I'm like, okay, what other stories? What other settings could you do? Do you do like Tales from the Senate, and then it's just all takes place in the Senate? And it's like everyone different perspective.
It could still be of. I don't see. We could do all these shows, and I love all these ideas.
I think both.
It just
these
feels
are
so
stupid.
rude
I'm gonna
to
say
change
it should be
it.
called Tales in the Cantina.
Ooh,
They're all the same. It's just disrespectful.
I actually don't mind Tales from the Cantina though, because it is like a completely different model. So it's just like a little subtle way to kind of differentiate itself a little bit. I don't know. I see it both ways.
I feel like Tales from is like you get a story from something, so it's like is any of this stuff true? Is that all of these stories just stories?
How Tales of could go the same way. This is such a small difference.
I feel like Tales of is like, oh, this is what happens within this world. Where I feel like From is like more mythical or like question marky. Because it's not like a guaranteed thing. It's or like maybe it doesn't focus on as main characters. I don't know. We can get some Kit Fisto in there.
I'm trying so hard to come up with another example, and I can't. This is just such a small semantic thing that I just disagree with you 100% on that it's any different. I think that semantically it means the exact same thing. The words are completely interchangeable. It's just a slap in the face to Tales of the Empire and Jedi. And Jedi.
But is it? Because if I say this is like a Tales of Max Taylor or Tales from Max Taylor, those are different. Max told me the story. It's from, and Tales of Max Taylor is anything. I could hear it from Josh or you, or I don't know why I said Josh. I could hear it from my brother or you or myself. Those are different things.
Would there be any sort of plot significance to the tales not being true? Because maybe that could be a cool subtlety, not even like a major plot point, but like an Easter egg. Like, oh, why do they call it Tales from the Cantina? If it is important that, it's because the stories aren't true, and if that plays like a minor role in it at the end.
Here's the thing: if a character dies within the show, it's who's telling that story. It's someone else's perspective of what happened and what they witnessed. Which is why I also think it's like Tales from, where like if you're in a cantina specifically, how many times are you watching stories unfold in front of you? From like a bar, or like were you or something, and it's like you're telling that story and somebody else is weirdly living on through it. So like just for example, if those characters who are the bounties, if they die, it's technically just say from the bartender's perspective. Maybe it's the bartender telling these stories years later or something too.
This is shaking his head, but this conversations I've ever had on this podcast. I hate this so much. Tales of Max Taylor are stories about Max Taylor. Tales from Max Taylor could be tales about anything, just told by Max Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. Those are different perspectives. Those are different.
But it's narrators. But it is about the cantina, so it should be Tales of the Cantina.
No, it's not necessarily about the cantina, though. That's just where these stories
is the cantina
happening.
Like a narrator of sort?
No, that's just where it's culminating in episode 7.
Yeah.
Because
the
stories
all take
that they're
place
telling
in the same place.
In the cantina wouldn't... I mean, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but not every single story that they're telling would also take place in that same cantina. The stories
every single episode will be in that cantina. Like the first episode, the informant the past bounty walks in, and so the guy's got to solve that problem within that space. So every single episode will take place within that cantina.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then that kind of shoots a hole in my defense then. All right. I guess I'm with Luke. It should be Tales of the Cantina. Unless there's something... No, I don't know. I'm back to middling. You guys figure it out.
There's been several comic series in Legends, like Tales from Jabba's palace, I want to say. I'm trying to Google it. Yeah, Tales from Jabba's Palace is a series. I don't want to have this conversation, honestly. This is such a dumb conversation that I feel so unnecessarily strongly about.
So do I. And I was like, I've never died on any hill. Usually I'm just like, I'll bend the knee. But I'm like, no, it's from. I was like, I don't mind but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. As the creator of the show, it doesn't feel right.
You have the final authority as the creator of the show.
To go back
Max,
to my Greedo argument, though, if the whole Greedo story arc is all about the backstory to getting the vest, Luke, are you even going to like Greedo as much in that if he's not wearing the vest? Because that's like one of your three things that you like about him.
I am imagining him like uncomfortably shirtless in this show.
What if it's the reverse, though? What if he just has a vest on and he takes a shirt?
I remember the episode, his clothing keeps ripping so that at the end, the only thing that's exposed is what a vest would cover. And then someone hands him the vest and he's like, oh, this is perfect.
I remember at a Comic-Con or a Star Wars Celebration, I ran into a Greedo cosplayer who was just wearing the costume. He wasn't dressed as a Rodian at all. He was just wearing the green jumpsuit with the orange vest. And I remember thinking, like, that is so cool. Like, that you would think if you're not going to go full Rodian that it's not worth doing that cosplay, but it still is. That guy was awesome.
That guy can go to a bar after and not feel weird about it. He could just go on with his day.
Are you sure this guy just wasn't hot and took off his mask?
I am certain. We talked. He was Greedo.
You struck up a conversation with him.
Knowing it was Greedo, though, or did you strike up a conversation?
I said,
you was
hey, Greedo, but without the face. That's still cool anyway. And he said, yeah, man.
Was that the extent of the conversation? Because I'd feel weird if I was that guy. I'd be like, oh, that guy was a dick. And then knowing you were actually 100% genuine.
I had a similar conversation with whomever I was with that he thought I might have come across that way. Yeah.
And just to confirm that having that conversation out loud with a stranger, that is not in your bottom 5 conversations. This the from and
that's in Luke's top 5. That was a great one.
Yeah, I loved that guy.
Luke still thinks about that guy.
It's like my next favorite conversation that I had with Jonas Suatamo when I said, hey, Jonas? And he said, yeah, man. Nice.
Nice. Cool.
I mean, you made his day for sure. I mean, how often does he get recognized outside of any Star Wars convention, outside of a Chewbacca or Wookiee costume?
He was not by anyone else that was around me, but they were all. Yeah, it was after Celebration in 22 in Disneyland. All the people around me right after were like, "Oh my god, who was that? Is he famous?" I was like, "Yeah, he's famous."
You should have been like, "No." I had him on Snapchat. Like, what the fuck?
Went to high school with him. He just happens to be 7 feet tall and walks with security guards.
That's funny. All right. Well, does anyone have any force for thought?
Yes, I do. And it is as follows. In Attack of the Clones.
Nice.
Again, we're rewatching through. This is a couple minutes after the elevator scene, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. Maybe. Depending on the release schedule. It's confusing. Obi-Wan asks Anakin if he's dreaming of his mother. He doesn't say again, because Anakin can't sleep. And this is obviously for the audience. This is where the writing comes into play, where, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Is it implied that they don't spend that much time together that he wouldn't know that this is a reoccurring thing? Because he brings it up to Anakin like this is a new thought that Obi-Wan just had. He's like, "Oh, are you having nightmares about your mother again?" So do they not spend that much time together?
Do you have the exact quote? I'll pull it up if you don't.
I don't. I barely could read my notes in time because I didn't.
Anakin says, "I'm not sleeping well," and then Obi-Wan says, "Because of your mother." And Anakin says, "Yeah," and then he talks about his dreams, I think.
But shouldn't that be, again, that's for the audience, but doesn't that feel like a conversation they should have already had then? Does that make sense to you guys? Because I feel like if you're just like, oh, like if we're roommates, I know that you're having a sleeping problem, and we've talked about this before. but randomly, now that we're watching them, now that they're by Padme, he decides to bring it up. Is this not something they should already have hashed out and discussed?
I don't know, not necessarily. I mean, that could have been the first time that they were bringing it up.
That scene throws me off.
Is that what you're wondering, though? Is like... if they're roommates?
No, but now I'm questioning that. But I just mean, like, I feel like they've probably slept in worse places before, and they've probably been in tighter quarters before, and they've never had this conversation until randomly now that they're together. It makes me feel like,
yeah,
are they not as close as we are meant to believe that they are? Again, this line threw me. Again, rewatching it, I was like, this feels like something that like he should definitely know about already before. I mean, he literally was with him when he left his mother. Like, since then, presumably they've been together this entire time, and I feel like for some reason right now they're decided they're bringing it up randomly, and on a night where
I did have a similar thought when I was rewatching the Clone Wars about how much time Jedi Masters and Padawans spend with each other when they're not on mission. But I'm trying to think within Attack of the Clones, I think somebody just said that Obi-Wan and Anakin just returned from a mission. I don't know if they specifically said what, though. So I feel like they should have been spending time together.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like, what throws me is that when you're watching like Rebels or something, I feel like those characters know each other so in and out. Like, they know each other, they know their habits, their sleeping, everything. Like, again, this is kind of in the weeds, but they like understand how these other people live. But I feel like in Attack, it was just a random scene. Again, I didn't think that too hard about it, to be honest. But when I watched it, like, stuck out to me where I'm like, is this the first time he's mentioning he's having like he can't sleep because he's having nightmares about his mother? But it's like, well, you've been with him for years now. Presumably,
why does it have to be the first time? This could have been come up before.
I think it has come up before. I just pulled it up, and the quote is, Obi-Wan says to Anakin, "You look tired." And Anakin says, "I don't sleep well anymore." Obi-Wan says, "Because of your mother." And Anakin says, "I don't know why I keep having dreams about her." So I think that implies that he's had dreams about her before and told Obi-Wan about it.
So reverse it, though. I don't sleep well anymore. That feels like he's telling Obi-Wan for the first time. I don't sleep well anymore. It's like, I haven't been sleeping well again. Or something. Like, I don't sleep well anymore. Feels like...
maybe he's been having the dreams for a while, and now they've gotten worse to the point where he's not sleeping well. But he's told him about the dreams before, back when he was still sleeping okay from it.
I think you're trying to make sense
gathered from this scene, overanalyzing it, is Obi-Wan saying to Anakin, "You look tired," when they're currently on a security detail overnight mission. It's like the middle of the night. Is it just nighttime, Obi-Wan? Like, I know he was right, and so he feels very vindicated calling out Anakin for looking tired, but like, I've worked nights before. You get tired.
Any other condition or issue that Anakin's facing aside, the answer is just, yeah, I'm a little sleepy right now.
You ever been a human above the age of 25? Pretty tired.
Anakin hasn't at this point.
How old was he in Attack?
19.
Oofda.
That's crazy. But not in real life, though, right? Hayden Christensen was older than that.
I'm sure not. I have no idea, but
I'm gonna look this up now.
I don't know how old he would have been.
Does that Max, having written stuff before as well? Not like now that you haven't, but like you have dug your heels in, Max. Like, does that dialogue to you make any sense? Because to me, it's like, I feel again, it's like he should say again or something. The fact that like we're cobbling it together to make sense feels weird. To be like, I don't think
anymore. So. I don't see an issue with it. I think
he was 21 during Attack of the Clones, Hayden, when it released, I guess. So a little bit younger when it filmed, but
so maybe it's almost spot on, I guess.
That's interesting. I would have guessed he would have been older than that.
Me too.
No, the dialogue doesn't stick out to me, I guess. Maybe I have to rewatch it in context. But
no, I'll go with your
the words. I feel like it is possible to interpret it either way. Yeah, that's it. I think it could be interpreted either way, and I don't necessarily think either one is weird, because I could have. There's nothing wrong with that being the first time that conversation has come up. I mean, like, maybe they were spending more time together.
Yeah,
I mean, like what? Like first thing in the morning? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Bring it up.
Or how is there not another time where they're not on a mission where they're like doing something late at night? and they don't
they're
run
always on
into
a
each
mission.
other or talk. That's what I'm saying. So when you're on a mission, you're spending time with somebody for that long. There's no way you're not talking about that stuff.
I agree. I think this is not the first time that they've talked about Anakin's mother. Again, because
that'd be crazy.
that would imply if it was the first time, then Anakin said, I don't sleep well anymore. And Obi-Wan said, because of your mother. Like, if he just shot that shot and got it right, and they hadn't talked about Anakin's mother in 10 years, and it's like, who knows what else Anakin has going on? Like,
That's what I'm saying.
I would think he's dreaming of Padme, but
another
What if he shot
level
that
of
shot
that,
and
though,
got
too.
it wrong? What if Anakin was like, no, but thanks for bringing that back up?
I think that's the thing too, right? As Anakin as his Padawan, I feel like you have to know that person mentally in and out, basically, to be training them to be a Jedi. So I think that is another aspect of it that just felt weird to me. Like, Obi-Wan says that because he knows Anakin pretty well, but the fact that he doesn't know that he's not sleeping well anymore or something just like throws me off, where I'm like, are you supposed to know him? Is it your fault he becomes Darth Vader? Did you not vet him enough?
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm starting to come around to Matt's side of it now because of Obi-Wan shooting that shot by saying your mother. Yeah, you don't just go with that. I think they had the conversation before, and there was no reason to bring this up in this moment other than for the audience's awareness. Because if this had come up before, then he already knows it. And Obi-Wan's the one who brings it up. I feel like if you do know that he's having dreams of his mother, you don't bring it up. I don't know. I guess I also get into the Jedi
this is the perfect time to bring it up.
Or you just rephrase it. I think that's the problem for me. Is like the context is fine. It's just the rephrasing, I think. Rewatch, everybody. That is my first thought in general, is rewatch that scene now for everybody, just to see if it sticks out. It stuck out to me weird. I was like, wait, what?
I do agree that if Obi-Wan did know, which I believe he did, he should have been more proactive about it than just doing assumedly nothing and waiting for it to affect Anakin's sleep and then bring it up. But I think this is the perfect time to bring it up because they're hunkering down for an 8-hour overnight, just sitting in the living room together, watching Padme sleep, or listening to Padme sleep. Like, they're not expecting an attack tonight. This is a ripe opportunity to get to the nitty-gritty of your feelings, Anakin.
This is like one of those things where it's easier to talk to somebody when you're not looking at them when it's dark or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Interesting. Well, let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any strong opinions on that dialogue or if it sticks out to us. You can reach to us at Force for Thought across social medias, forceforthought@gmail.com.
Hey, Sammy. Am I banned from doing Force for Thoughts now?